Welcome to everyone who chose pile number 1. If you're here, you're in the right place. Today's topic is their true feelings for you and where this connection is truly heading. Let's start with the first line. In this first line, I'm going to look at the current energy between you and this person. How the two of you are connected, how you see each other, and what stage this relationship currently is standing. The overall tone of this connection doesn't feel like something casual or light, and it doesn't feel like a simple crush that came and went. Instead, it feels much closer to a situation where both of you have already placed each other on the table as a real option, someone who could genuinely matter in your life. From the very beginning, there was a noticeable sense of awareness between you. Maybe not something openly spoken, but something quietly acknowledged. It's like there was a sense, on some level, that meeting each other carried meaning. This is not a connection where emotions ran ahead recklessly or impulsively. It feels more like both of you have at least once seriously asked yourselves what place this person might hold in your life and what direction things might head if you allow the connection to deepen. There is a thoughtful, intentional quality to this relationship, like the feelings that developed were layered over time through understanding, trust, and mutual respect. For some of you, this may have started in a familiar shared environment, somewhere you visit repeatedly like gym, coffee shop, a place you frequent, possibly even a work setting or a routine, everyday space where you saw each other more than once. For others, this may have begun online, something like social media through messages, where conversations slowly built into something more meaningful. Regardless of the setting, this doesn't feel like a one-time fleeting interaction. It feels like a connection born from repeated contact, shared context, and emotional impression that grew little by little. The emotional tone between you is warm, yet very controlled and refined. There is attraction here, real attraction. But at the same time, both of you seem careful not to rush, not to carelessly, and not to say things you can't take back. On the surface, nothing may look dramatic or explosive. Things may appear calm, steady, restrained, but underneath that, there is a quiet awareness that any step forward from here could change the meaning of this relationship in a significant way. There is a subtle sense of if we really move toward each other, this won't be something casual. There's also a strong sense of timing here because of the wheel of fortune. It's almost like this connection is approaching or has recently passed an important crossroads. This is not just like feelings growing naturally. It feels like a stage where both of you are starting to realize that you cannot just let things drift endlessly the way they have before. The emotions are real and present, but alongside the warmth, there is also a layer of caution, reflection, and quiet tension about what comes next. Looking at the other person's energy, this feels like someone who has a strong sense of self and a clear standard for how they act in a relationship. They may have confident energy, self-respect, and a tendency to present themselves in a composed, intentional way. Even when they feel something deeply, they prefer to express it within a boundary they can control. From your perspective, that may take them appear cautious at times, or slower to move than you expect. For a small number of you, there may still be a lingering echo from someone's past, a trace of unfinished emotional residue, or a memory that hasn't fully dissolved. But the biggest variable in these connections doesn't feel like a third person. Instead, it feels much more like the question of whether the two of you will choose to move forward and what direction the choice will take. Overall, this connection already occupies a meaningful place in both of your lives. It isn't just about chemistry or curiosity. It is deeply tied to timing, circumstance, and a sense of where do we go from here. This relationship feels like it's gently, carefully moving away from the stage of a light interest or a casual attraction. And it is going toward the point where the deeper questions like, do we step further into this? Or do we begin to choose a different path? It's not a rushed or sudden decision, but the energy shows that both of you are slowly and steadily approaching that threshold. Okay, now let's move to the second line. In this second line, we are going to talk about how this person looks on the outside and what's actually going on underneath that. On the surface, this isn't someone who shows big emotional swings or dramatic reactions. Even when you look at the way they text or communicate, you don't really see things like sudden bursts of messages, emotional oversharing. Instead, they keep things pretty steady. A steady tone, a steady rhythm, and expressions that never really cross a risky line. They try to stay safely inside the range. For example, they may not directly say, I miss you, but they will check in about your day, your work, or what's been going on with you. And if you say you're having a hard time, they'll respond with something like, are you okay? Or I hope you're right. But when the conversation feels like it might move into a deeper emotional space, they stop right before the point and leave it there. So from the outside, they come across as calm, grounded, and composed, like someone who keeps their life together and doesn't really wobble emotionally. But on the inside, they don't see you as a casual or passing connection. To them, you're not someone they can just lightly get involved with. You're someone who could actually have an impact on their life if things deepen, and someone they would feel responsible for if the relationships were to move forward in a real way. And because of that, the more their feelings grow, the more they start to slow themselves down. They adjust the pacing of their message, they choose their words more carefully, and they steer the conversation back toward daily life or practical topics. So when the atmosphere begins to lean into deeper feelings, or when it seems like the connection might cross into a more intimate space, they will suddenly ground the tone again, saying things like, work has been crazy lately, or like, life is a bit complicated right now, and they shift the focus back to reality. This is not happening because they don't care. In their mind, it's more like, if this goes any deeper from here, it stops being casual. From that point on, it becomes a real choice. And from here, we can see how the inner stance shows up differently depending on the situation. In their messaging pattern, even when emotion rise, they don't suddenly rush in or close the distance. They keep a consistent tone and rhythm. When the conversation starts drifting toward deeper feelings, they pause or gently redirect things back to everyday life. In situations where you work together or share the same environment, they stay professional and balanced on the surface. But the deeper their feelings become, the more careful they get, managing the distance within the boundaries of a work-appropriate relationship. Because they don't want misunderstanding, complications, or unnecessary risk. And in connections where there has already been distance, separations, or subtle reconnection, the feelings are not gone. But they are cautious about getting close again, and then falling apart a second time. So they keep in touch, but avoid decisive words, reunion signals, or emotional confessions. At the core of all of this is one very specific inner stance. They already have feelings for you, but they don't want to act on those feelings in a way they cannot fully take responsibility for, and they don't want to cross a line they are not sure they can realistically carry through. So in their behavior, what shows up is this pattern. The interest stays, the connection doesn't fully break, but they consistently avoid decisive actions or clear emotional commitment. It's a very intentional way of maintaining a safe emotional boundary. In short, their feelings are real, and they run deeper than they show on the surface. But they don't want to make a choice based only on emotion, because this is not the kind of connection they feel they can step into lightly and walk away from easily. So even if their expression feels limited or the progress feels slow, it is not because they don't care. It's because they're constantly putting on the brakes themselves, keeping the emotion from moving into a place they're not ready to fully step into yet. Now, let's move into third line. In the third line, we are going to look at what this person is actually likely to do. The overall energy in this part of the reading doesn't feel like a situation where feelings have disappeared or faded out completely. Instead, it feels much closer to a connection that has already gone through one strong emotional shake or a moment of pause. It is lingering in a place where this person is quietly asking themselves whether they should move forward again or whether they should hold their position and stay still. There is a strong sense of unresolved emotion here, feelings that were never fully expressed, thoughts that were never fully spoken, and a quiet pull that hasn't gone away, even if they've tried to step back from it. Looking at their past action and emotional movement, there seems to have been at least one point where this person told themselves that they need to pull back or regain control over the situation. Not because their feelings disappeared, but because the more their heart leaned toward you. It's like they reached a moment where they said to themselves like, if I keep going like this, I might fall deeper than I can handle. So they try to slow down the connection. They may have softened their tone, reduced the frequency of contact, or stopped themselves from expressing their emotions as openly as before. It was not a rejection. It was more like a self-protective decision, an attempt to manage a connection that already felt too meaningful to be taken lightly. But even if they told themselves that stepping back was the right thing to do, the choice didn't necessarily feel easy or completely comfortable for them. On the surface, they may have tried to rationalize it, convincing themselves that creating distance was safer, more practical, or more responsible. But emotionally, there are still waves of longing that rise up again from time to time. Moments of curiosity, moments where they wonder whether they made the right choice. So even if they've acted, they were pulling away, inside they remain caught in a repeating cycle, trying to move on, but quietly circling back to the same emotional space. From here forward, their future actions don't look impulsive or aggressively forward-moving. This is someone who has already felt how overwhelming this connection can be, and the memory makes them hesitant to rush back in. They worry about moving toward you only to hit the same emotional wall. They worry about getting your hopes up and then failing to follow through. And more than anything, they worry about creating more emotional weight or hurt on either side. So rather than charging ahead, their instinct, at least for now, leans more toward the restraint. They hold themselves back. They put emotional boundaries in place. So in their behavior, this may show up as contact that feels cautious, conversations that avoid going too deep. It may look like indecision or like they are avoiding clarification. But at the core, it's less about avoidance and more about them saying to themselves, if I move carelessly here, someone is going to get hurt. So their hesitation is wrapped in a quiet sense of responsibility. But if we ask whether their feelings are gone, the answer is no. Emotionally, they still think of you. They still notice your presence. They still feel those subtle echoes of connection inside themselves, even while trying not to fit into them. It's like their heart wants to step forward, but their intuition or their fear keeps telling them that moving closer might make things more complicated. For the near future, the energy suggests that they may try to keep the connection from escalating, maintaining a quiet, stable distance rather than dramatically shifting the dynamic. If you look at what would need to happen for this connection to truly move forward again, It doesn't look like something that would come from being pressured into decision or from emotional confrontation. Right now, this person doesn't feel ready for ultimatums, labels, or sudden emotional leaps. If they are pushed into choosing or defining too quickly, their instinct is more likely to be withdrawal. Instead, what would give this connection the best chance to settle again is a softer reopening, a space where conversation can exist without pressure, a connection that breathes slowly without demand or urgency, where they can return in a small, careful step. When the environment feels calm rather than intense, when the relation feels like a place where they can exist without fear of being rushed, only then their heart begin to consider the possibility of moving towards you again. It wouldn't be sudden and it wouldn't be dramatic, but the choice must come from within them, not from external pressure. So the conclusion of this line is that this person still has feelings for you, but they are standing still because they are not ready to carry the emotional weight. The challenge in this connection is not lack of emotion. It is the fear of what commitment, vulnerability, deeper movement might demand from them. The most realistic approach for you in this situation is not to chase a clarity or force decisions, but instead to hold a gentle, open space where the connection can exist, a space where conversation is possible but not demanded. And if that space remains, then in time, this person may either quietly find their way back toward you or recognize fully that they are not ready and choose to remain still. Either way, the truth of this connection and its real direction will eventually reveal itself at the moment when their heart finally choose which path it can carry. And that was pile number 1. Thank you for watching and see you next reading. Bye! Welcome to everyone who chose pile number 2. If you're here, you're in the right place. Today's topic is their true feelings for you and where this connection is heading from here. So, let's start with the first line. In this first line, I'm going to look at the current energy between you and this person. How the two of you see each other, how this relationship become connected in the first place, and what stage this connection is standing. And the feeling I get from this pile is not something that came in like a huge emotional shock or dramatic turning point. It feels much more like a connection where both of you looked at each other and felt like we just get along really well, almost like a close friend. This is not a connection that came in heavy or overwhelming or serious vibe. It feels like something that grew naturally through conversation, joking around, laughing together, and somewhere along the way, without either of you forcing it, you just became special to each other. The feelings here didn't explode. It's more like a warm affection that slowly turned into genuine closeness. When I look at the two of you, it feels like from the very beginning, your conversation tempo matched really well. Talking to each other probably felt easy, not like you're carefully trying to say the right thing, but more like you're already familiar with one another somehow. Comfortable, but with this soft, subtle excitement underneath it. This is not a connection that came from loneliness or obligation. It comes from the feeling of when I'm with you, I just feel good. For some of you, you may have actually started out as a friend first, and then the emotional naturally grew from there. When I look at the background of how this connection may have started, it doesn't feel like some dark or secretive situation. The most likely settings are like social group, mutual friends, or some kind of a shared gathering. It can be activity, hobby, or outdoor space, fun, light environment where people laugh and enjoy themselves. The key vibe here is it's very open, bright, and natural. You were not forced together. Instead, over time, you just started to notice each other more and more. For some reason, this person really keeps catching my eye. Now, looking at the other person's personality. On the surface, they seem bright, energetic, maybe even a little bold or playful at times. They may come across as someone with a lot of passion, and forward momentum. Someone who jokes around, lift the mood, and keep things feeling light. So time to time, from your perspective, there may have been moments where they felt a bit immature or a little impulsive, or like they follow their emotions first rather than thinking deeply about the situation. But underneath all of that, there's actually a really warm and sincere heart. This is the kind of person whose motivation is like, okay, when I like someone, I really want to treat them well. They're honest, they're open, and their emotions are pretty pure. Sometimes they might come off as a little self centered, but not in a cold or selfish way. It's more like childlike self centeredness rather than calculated or manipulated behavior. So many of you may actually feel like you're gently guiding or emotionally supporting this person at times. Right now, the temperature of this connection is not cold, but it also is not burning. It feels very warm, like sunshine, open, positive, emotionally uplifting. You're both aware of each other, but instead of caution or fear, what comes first is trust and curiosity. Both of you have positive outlook toward one another. Being in contact feels uplifting, spending time together feels fun, and when you're apart, there's this sense of missing each other, not because of insecurity or emotional emptiness, but simply because you want just a little more time together. So even if things have been clearly defined yet, you're already seeing each other as someone special. And one really striking point here is the feelings this person has toward you are not just a curiosity. When they are with you, they feel brighter. They feel more honest. They can be themselves. They feel alive, like being with you brings out better version of themselves. So their affection for you is not just attraction. It's this sense of when I'm beside you, I feel like I become a better person. So this connection doesn't come from duty or pressure. Their heart is just naturally growing in your direction almost without them realizing it. So right now, this connection is standing on a place where you already mean something real to each other. Things are not fully defined yet, but you are definitely far beyond as a casual stage. You're standing in a space where both of you are genuinely viewing one another with respect, warmth, and sincere emotional openness. And now, moving into the second line. So here, we are going to dig deep how this person behaves on the outside and what they're really feeling inside. And this energy here feels like this person is actually a little different on the outside than they are on the inside. Not in a two-faced way, not like they're being fake. It's more like the version of them that people see and the version that actually lives inside them are pretty different. Like I mentioned earlier, on the outside, they can look really bright, playful, kind of innocent, super energetic. They talk well, they joke around, they're active, social, all kind of that. The kind of person who brings a lot of lively energy into a space. But on the inside, there's a bit of fear there, a cautious side, a careful side. So when you're hanging out together, when you're spending time, laughing, joking, having fun, everything feels super light and comfortable and natural. But then, the moment the conversation starts leaning towards something serious or emotional or deeper, they get quiet. And some of you are going to recognize the pattern right away. From the outside, they look calm and careful and thoughtful in how they approach things. Like, they're intentionally keeping things steady instead of rushing forward. Even when their feelings get stronger, they don't show that right away. They step back a little, watch the situation, and they kind of tell themselves like, okay, I think this is the right pace for now. And then they keep everything inside the boundary they created. So from your perspective, the way they come toward you probably feels really cautious, really stable, not like someone who rushes in all at once or pushes things forward aggressively. When they interact with you, they don't throw words or actions out impulsively. They try not to make mistakes. There is a strong awareness of, I don't want to look reckless, I don't want to seem like I'm rushing emotionally. So even though the feelings are definitely there, the way they express those feelings comes out in a very grounded, controlled, realistic tone. From your point of view, it might feel like you can clearly sense the interest in their eyes or in the way they talk to you. But when it comes to taking a decisive step or really moving forward, they kind of stop right before that point. When we go inside their heart deeper into what's really going on, there's already a mix of caution and emotional guard up inside them. And this is not because something is wrong with you, it's more like this is simply how they are when it comes to relationship. For some of them, it might come from past experience. For others, it's just their personality. This is who they are. They're the type who doesn't easily reveal their inner world. They don't really open up about themselves so quickly. Sharing their inner emotion doesn't come naturally to them. It feels awkward, vulnerable, unfamiliar. So even though their feelings toward you are growing, they may not be great at expressing those feelings. On the outside, they look calm, bright, warm, but on the inside, there's already this light emotional defense shield rising up. Being with you make them feel like their world expands, like they can be more of their real self around you, like their thoughts, conversations, emotions all sit on the same wavelength with you. So they don't see you as someone to just casually enjoy time with. They see you as someone who could actually become an important choice, someone who could stand in a meaningful place in their life. Here's another really important part of their psychology. Self control and self respect are very important to this person. Inside a relationship, they really don't want to feel like they're being pulled around or swept up by emotions or becoming dependent. So even though deep down they want to get closer, they want to message more, they want to be more honest with you, on the outside, they intentionally maintain this relaxed, composed tone. And this is not push and pull. It's not some strategy. It's more like self protection. Another big thing in their inner world is that they don't really want to lose all sense of control in this connection. They know that if they move closer, their feelings are going to deepen. And if that happens, there's also a chance they might get hurt again. So they try to regulate their emotions one more time before moving forward. Under the surface of what they don't express, there is a curiosity, expectation, strong attraction toward you. And at the same time, this voice saying like, okay, not yet. Don't go too far. Both energies coexist inside them. Honestly, when I look at their character overall, I get this sense that there's a bit of gap between the version of themselves they want to show others and who they really are inside. Like I mentioned earlier, they are actually kind of shy, kind of nervous, kind of clumsy at times, and they know that about themselves. So when it comes to someone they like, they really don't want to show the vulnerable, awkward side. They want to hide their flaws and show only the good parts. And honestly, that comes from a place of wanting to be seen well by you, wanting to look good in your eyes, wanting to present the best version of themselves. So if you can, try to see the part of them a little gently, with a bit of warmth, because none of this comes from bad intention. It comes from someone who already cares and is trying in their own careful way. Alright, so moving into the third line. So here we are going to look at what this person is actually likely to do going forward, which direction this connection is going to move in, and within that flow, what feels like the most realistic way for you to navigate things. When I look at the overall flow here, it feels like this person is going to repeatedly experience two sides of themselves clashing with each other inside this connection. On one side, there's this impulse to move closer to you, this urge to feel a deeper connection than where things currently stand. On the other side, there's this strong inner voice saying, if I let things feels grow any further, this could get complicated. They pull themselves back. There are moments where, when their feelings rise up strongly, they may suddenly move toward you in a much more straightforward, honest, direct way. In those moments, they're sincere. Their heart is definitely leaning toward you. And there may even be points where it feels like they're finally reaching a decision, like they don't want to keep this connection vague anymore. But almost every time afterward, they end up pulling the brakes again. From your perspective, this might feel confused, and especially in this line, the feelings they have toward you are not just something that can be easily sorted out logically. This is really strong emotion. It's like a magnetic pull here, a focused, almost obsessive attraction. There's also strong physical and sexual attraction too, and they find you extremely appealing. Even going forward, they're still going to think about you often. The connection continues regardless of physical distance, timing, or circumstances. There's also intentional avoidance, like the moment I give an answer right now, this stops being just about emotions and it turns into a real life decision. This is from where some of those childlike and slightly self centered traits we mentioned earlier start to show. Even so, they don't stay completely passive. If you look toward the final flow of this line, what we see is that this person, at the very least, try to maintain the connection with you within a range they feel they can emotionally handle. So the final behavior pattern narrows down to continuing the connection, but at their own pace. And the most realistic stance for you in this connection is protect your own feeling first. Don't force yourself into stress or urgency. Spend time with this person if it feels good. Enjoy the connection for what it is, because this person moves very slowly. And instead of spending the time inside emotional tension, it's better and healthier for you to also live well for yourself. Enjoy your own space, your own life, and your own time. And if one day you reach a point where you feel like, I cannot keep doing this anymore, that's when you can step back and honestly reevaluate what this connection means for you. You don't have to decide everything right now, and the truth of the relationship will reveal itself. That was a pile number 2. Thank you for watching and see you next reading. Bye! Welcome to everyone who chose pile 3. If you're here, you're in the right place. Today's topic is their true feelings for you and where this connection is really heading from here. Okay, let's start from the first line. Right from the very beginning, the feeling here is pretty clear. This is not a simple connection. The emotion here feels hidden, restrained, kind of pushed down under the surface. There are a lot of possible cases showing up here, but the one that stands out the most is a third-party situation. In this case, this doesn't look like a connection that started from a clean, empty slate, or from a place where everything was open and uncomplicated. Instead, it feels like one person, or maybe both of you, already had a relationship, a responsibility, or an existing connection. And then emotions developed on top of that. So what shows up here looks like a love triangle or overlapping relationship. So from that very beginning, the distance between you didn't really feel clear. The boundary line was not drawn cleanly. You moved closer, but at the same time had to stop yourselves. And over time, the emotion deepened inside that unresolved space. This is not like, oops, feeling just happened by accident. It's not like that. It feels a lot more like you already saw a lot each other. You already knew a lot about each other. You already shared time, space, and experience. And somewhere inside all of that, the emotion just naturally grew. And within this connection, there are traces of like a pull that doesn't break easily, emotions that don't fully stay under control, a hurt that knows it should stop but keeps coming back, and a pattern of trying to end things but reconnecting again. These marks feel like they've repeated more than once, especially from this person's side. What really stands out is they know this is a feeling they shouldn't be having, but they still cannot completely stop. What they feel toward you is not just a curiosity. It feels more like a familiarity, closeness, and a bond that almost feels addictive. So this is not a connection where emotions shake once and disappear. It keeps circling back to the same place. And also, this connection doesn't really feel like something bright and openly public. The energy leans more towards something private, hidden, quietly contained. Not because someone here is necessarily doing something wrong, the conditions of these relationships were already complicated from the beginning. So even though the two of you are very aware of each other, you couldn't fully lay all of your emotions out on the table. Some conversations were intentionally avoided, and there was always this quiet line of, okay, we stop right there. And the two of you have been walking along that boundary line for quite a long time. It also feels like many of you met in some kind of environment where you naturally had repeated contact with each other, like a place where you kept crossing paths without trying. So this topic itself is kind of complicated. So some of you may actually be the main person inside this triangle. And for others, this situation might exist around the person you're thinking of. So since this is a general reading, take it in the way that fits your situation. For some of you, this may be feeling developing while someone is already married or living with a partner or in a committed relationship. In other cases, the past relationship hasn't fully ended yet, but new emotions formed, which creates a kind of transition phase dynamic. And for some situations where it is not exactly a love triangle, there may be separation from a spouse or ex-partner, but they are still tied together through parenting, finances, or shared responsibilities. So it becomes kind of co-parenting structure where they cannot fully leave, they cannot fully choose, and they stand at the same emotional crossroads for a very long time. Like you keep having repeated reconnections, you keep running into each other. And in some other cases, there may be a very influential family figure involved, like a parent or a child, something or someone that makes it hard to easily change or walk away from the existing structure. So overall, this connection doesn't feel like something that can be pushed forward purely by emotion. It exists on top of reality, responsibility, and already established structure. It feels like a connection that has been carefully maintained within those limits. And because of that, even when they try to end things, they get shaken again. Even when they try to create distance, the feeling drifts back in. So the pattern becomes not fully ending, but also not fully continuing. So the relationship stays suspended in the middle space for a quite long time. This connection is standing right on the very delicate balance point, too heavy to step further and too meaningful to fully walk away, and hovering in that in-between space where both of you are still trying to hold your footing. That was the first line. Okay, now moving into the second line. We are going to look at the contrast between how this person appears on the surface and what is actually happening inside their heart. This line focuses only on their emotional state, the tone of their behavior, the limits they place on themselves, and the truths they are not showing openly. The first thing that stands out here is on the outside, this person tries very hard to maintain a light, casual, almost easygoing tone in this connection. The way they interact with you doesn't usually move straight into heavy conversations or deep emotional territory. Instead, they lean more toward the small moments of warmth, light exchange, playful conversations, or spontaneous contact that feels natural and unpressured. From the outside, their behavior can look like they came toward you warmly for a while, then drifted into distance for a period, then reappear again. So the emotional rhythm you experience from them may feel inconsistent, not disappearing, not fully advancing, but rising and fading in waves like they're carefully adjusting the closeness. And from the behavior alone, it may seem like they are someone who moves with the situation and the mood, someone who doesn't fully commit emotionally, and someone who keeps everything within a comfortable, casual range. This is not coming from immaturity or carelessness, it comes from awareness. This person already knows exactly where they stand in life, what they are responsible for, and what crossing a deeper line in this connection would mean, not only for themselves, but for everyone involved. So instead of allowing their feelings to spill over, they intentionally keep them contained within a limit they believe they can still control. When they interact with you, they don't hide their interest, but they also don't offer clear promises. So even when their affection is obvious, they pull themselves back from saying or doing something that would turn this connection into something defined, something they might not be able to step away from later. Being near you doesn't just feel pleasant, it feels emotionally grounding. You're someone they can breathe around, someone whose presence fills a quiet emotional space in them, someone who makes them feel steadier and more alive at the same time. And because they value their feeling so much, they're afraid of losing it. So instead of moving further recklessly, they choose to stay in the middle, where the connection is still real, still alive, still meaningful, but not exposed enough to collapse under the weight of consequences. They don't fully let go, but they don't fully claim it either. There are moments when their real feelings rise to the surface, when they want to open up, when they want to speak more honestly, when they want to step one level deeper into vulnerability with you. But every time that impulse appears, they suppress it because they already know if they say everything honestly, this connection will change. So they protect what they feel by keeping it unspoken. Because as long as it remains unspoken, it can continue to exist. They are not treating you casually, they are protecting both of you by limiting their own vulnerability. Their affection is real, their warmth is real, their presence is intentional, but it's controlled, carefully, consciously. If they seem light, it's not because they are indifferent, it's because they are afraid of what happens if they stop holding back. They stand one step behind their own heart because they are already big enough to be dangerous. And the reason they hold the line is not emotional distance, it's emotional caution. And that was the second line. Alright, so now let's move into the third line. We are going to look at what this person is actually likely to do from here. Whether this connection moves closer, stays where it is, or pauses in place, and what the most realistic path forward looks like for you. When I look at this line, this person doesn't feel like someone who's ready to make a big decision or a dramatic change inside this relationship. They already have a structure in their life, responsibilities, routines, and relationships that have been in place for a long time. And because of that, they don't feel like this is a situation where they can just flip their life upside down for one emotional choice. In their head, they're saying something like, I shouldn't shake things too quickly. If I move right now, it affects more than just me. So instead of choosing something drastic, this person seems more likely to keep their current life structure as it is and maintain their responsibilities, and at the same time hold their feelings for you inside. Rather than choosing one word or the other, they lean toward staying in the middle space, keeping their balance between the two. They think this is the safest option for them right now. The Eight of Cups here shows that deep down they know they are not completely satisfied there. But right now they cannot fully walk away either. So in real life behavior, what this looks like, they keep living their current life, they keep doing what they are supposed to do, they stay responsible, but when they start to feel empty or emotionally drained or distant inside their own world, their thoughts drift back toward you. They think about you, they miss your presence, they look toward you emotionally, even if they don't fully move toward you physically. This person doesn't feel like someone who disappears completely. They don't really cut the emotional thread. Instead, there's a strong possibility that they come back from time to time. They reach out again in a light casual tone. They pop back and like nothing really happened. So, what is the most realistic approach for you in this connection? So first, if you push them toward a decision or demand clarity, their instinct is likely to pull back and protect themselves, because at this point, they are not choosing a love based on choosing one person. They are choosing a life that doesn't collapse. On the other hand, if you move forward while, understanding the limits of this connection, protecting your own emotional boundaries, and deciding for yourself where your line is, that becomes the healthier, more grounded position for you. In other words, the ultimate decision about whether this connection continues or whether you eventually step away may not end up coming from them. It may end up coming from you. That was the pile 3. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Welcome to everyone who chose pile number 4. If you're here, you're in the right place. Today's topic is their true feelings for you and where this connection is heading from here. So first line, we are going to look at the current state of this relationship, the energy between two of you, how you see each other. So the energy in this pile feels quiet and very much like feelings that have stayed in the heart for a long time. There is a warmth here, but at the same time, there's a sense of distance that never fully closed, a kind of unspoken loneliness, feelings that didn't quite make it all the way into words. And this distance doesn't feel like something that came simply because the two of you stopped talking. It feels more like the environment and lives you're both standing in, the situation you both belong to, have already created a structure where it is not easy to just walk toward each other. In this connection, there has been, at least once or maybe repeatedly, a period where one person felt like they were standing there alone. The moments where the other person had too much to handle, too much responsibilities, too much weight tied up in real world obligations. So even when they were feelings, the emotions couldn't fully turn into action or expression. This connection feels much closer to that kind of story. A lot of you here look like people who are married, have been in a long-term relationship. Some of you may be engaged, some may be living together. Either way, this doesn't feel like a casual situationship or light crush. This feels like something deep, like two people who truly share the life together. And this connection has the tone of something quiet, long-lasting, emotionally layered. And because it's been going on for so long, there is a lot that has been built here together. That may be a shared home, shared finances, shared memories, responsibilities, or even people you both care for. This is a connection that exists inside the real life. They feel like someone who prioritized stability, responsibility. One must be maintained much more than raw emotion. Whether they were always like this or whether they became this way because of responsibility, I cannot really know for sure. But for quite a long time, it feels like reality has been the thing that always came first. They don't want their foundation to collapse. They don't want to live in a way where they lean on someone else emotionally. In their life, things like family, finance, career, a daily duty already occupy a huge space. And in order to keep all of that from shaking, they've learned to press their emotions down to a certain level. At the same time, inside this relationship, there always has been understanding, but also caution, closeness, but also hesitation. This is a dynamic where both of you care, but the situation is always considered before the heart, especially from their side. So, from your perspective, there may have been times when you feel like you were not abandoned, but you were exactly chosen either. The feelings were still there, but there was no space for you to move into. Like, I'm still here in their heart, but there is not really a place for me to stand. And yet, this connection never fully disappeared. It stayed somewhere inside. And the reason for that is this was never a relationship about emotional convenience. This was bond where you saw each other's effort, you understood each other's struggles. And because of that, to this person, you are not someone who came and went. You are not someone who fades in memory with time. You are someone who stays in their heart even as life goes on. This is not loud passion, it's something deeper than that. Something quieter, something much harder to erase. And this person does not ignore their feelings for you, but they are painfully aware of the weight sitting on top of those feelings. So they've been standing here, unable to act freely, unable to cut the connection, carrying emotions that have been aging quietly. That was the first line. Now let's move into the second line. We are going to look beneath the surface at the way this person appears on the outside and the much deeper emotional truths they are carrying underneath. On the surface, this person tries very hard to stay balanced. They don't show strong swings in emotion. They don't become overly affectionate, but they also don't act cold or dismissive. The way they speak, the pace of communication, the emotional distance they maintain, all of it feels very intentional, almost like they are carefully keeping things within a safe, controlled range. Not too close, not too far, not fully open, but not fully shut either. From the outside, they can look like someone who is simply busy, steady, grounded. Someone who keeps their life running, keeps their responsibilities in order, and avoids making emotional promises. And from your side, this may have something feel confusing because it doesn't feel like they don't care. It just feels like held back, like something is being pressed down rather than absent. But when we go deeper into their inner emotional world, what shows up is the memory of a past breaking point, an experience where they once opened their heart too far, gave too much of themselves, or allowed their emotions to lead, and ended up deeply hurt. There is a wound here that didn't fully disappear. A moment in their past where they lost control of their boundaries, where things collapsed, where they felt like they had to rebuild themselves from the ground up. Because of that, this person now carries a very strong internal role. Like, I don't want to fall apart like that again. I cannot lose myself like that again. So even when they feel something real, they instinctively tighten. They hold themselves together. And when it comes to you, this is not a situation where their feelings are weak or unclear. In fact, they are fully aware that you pull at their heart. There is warmth, respect, and a sense that their heart naturally leans in your direction when they let themselves relax. This is someone who has learned to choose responsibility over desire, stability over emotion. When their feelings for you rise to the surface, they intentionally gather themselves, tighten their boundaries, and return to their duties, goals, and daily structure, almost as a survival reflex. It's the coping pattern of someone who has been broken before. At the same time, there is a deeper truth inside their heart, and that is the way they see you. To them, you're strong, distinct, someone with presence, depth, and emotional gravity, someone who doesn't fade easily once known. And because of that, they become even more careful around you. They choose their words more cautiously. They avoid letting unnecessary emotions slip through. They don't want to treat this connection lightly, and they don't want to create a situation they cannot emotionally or morally carry through to the end. On the outside, they look calm, steady, and composed. But underneath that, stillness are three things sitting side by side: their feelings for you, their fear of being hurt again, and the weight of the life they feel responsible for. And they are trying, sometimes painfully, to carry all of those at once. That was the second line. Okay, let's move into the third line. Now, in this line, we're going to look at what this person is likely to do moving forward and what the most grounded and self-protective path will look like for you. The future energy of this connection shows a person who will continue to feel conflicted inside. Even though they've spent a long time choosing responsibility over emotion, your presence and the feelings they still carry for you don't simply disappear. So, going forward, their inner world is likely to stay divided between two directions: the life they've already committed to and the emotional pull that still exists toward you. On the surface, they may look steady and composed, but inside, they're still asking themselves two very different questions at the same time. The first one: I should keep going the way I've been living. And, but is it really okay to keep ignoring how my heart feels? Those two thoughts continue to push against each other. As soon as they sense that things might move too far, or the emotions might deepen to a point they can no longer contain, they pull themselves back. They remind themselves of their responsibilities, of the structure they've already built, of the life they believe they must continue carrying. So the pattern moving ahead looks like they can closer when the heart rises and then step back when reality tightens. From your perspective, this can feel like emotional whiplash, moments where their feelings are unmistakable, followed by quiet withdrawal, like nothing happened. Their direction, in general, is not one of a harsh rejection or cold separation. It is not about turning their back on you. It leans toward the protective stopping point, a belief inside them. So they choose what feels like the safest distance, even if the safety comes at the cost of emotional closeness. In truth, this person doesn't fully erase their feelings, but they also don't fully step into them. They hover in between, moving forward and pulling back, feeling and then enduring. Okay, shifting the focus back to you. The most realistic decision in this connection does come from waiting for them to make a bold choice, because they never do it. If you try to push them toward a decision, ask for emotional proof, or press the relationship into clarity before they are ready, their instinct will likely be to retreat further into self protection. This is not a connection that unfolds through pressure or confrontation. It's one where your own boundaries, your emotional limits matters more. This person is not acting from a lack of care. They are acting from a lifetime of choosing stability. And right now, the chance of them fully breaking out of the pattern remain very small. So the real turning point lies in you asking yourself, how far am I willing to carry this? Where does my limit truly sit? What distance protects my own heart? So before we close this line, I want to say something. Honestly, if this has been painful, it is not because you are not enough or because your presence didn't matter. It's because the size of choice this person is capable of making, at least for now, simply stops here. Your feelings were real, and their feelings were real. But your healing, your safety, and your emotional well being come first. And those deserve to be protected, even when the connection itself is hard to step away from. So that was pile 4. Thank you for watching and see you next reading. Bye.